Hi everyone in English 1301, it's Dr. E and I'm here with an instructional video for your writing collection assignment. So I'm going to walk through the handout and information that should prove useful so that when this is due, you can come back to this if you need to just get a sense of the assignment and the expectations. So this is the handout, and what we're really focusing on with this assignment is our ability to go back and think about our previous writing. So really diving into that idea of revision and looking at your work with fresh eyes. So we do some of this work with the reflection, but this is then not just reflecting on it, but actually doing the work to revise. Okay, so we're going to go back to our written responses to revise. You're going to revise, edit, review, and submit these as a single document, your responses. So in a lot of classes, this would be considered plagiarism, right? You're reusing work in a sense, but this is an assignment that specifically is asking you to go back to the work. So I would not say that reusing work in other courses is what you should do, right? This is something where I am giving you permission to do so, so please make sure that you are reworking those things that you have previously submitted, okay? So, let's think about this also. So we have our goal, right, to go back and revise and work. But for the future, I also want you to think about, this idea of, learning some strategies and thinking about those for academic writing. So revision and review are just so important, so crucial. We are not going to be the ones to see the errors in our own writing, or our ideas may be unclear, right? So I read your ideas differently than you write them, right? I write my ideas differently than you read them. Sometimes you may read my instructions or the guidelines for something, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to you because you are reading differently. So getting somebody else's input can be really helpful to make sure that across the board, at least generally, your ideas are really being communicated effectively. Okay, so are there new things that we need to write for this collection, or are we just revising something? Well, yes, you're going to create an abstract paragraph per revised response. And so you're also going to have a works cited page for any sources, okay? I really am stressing you've completed a majority of this work. If you submitted those written responses on time, you have done a majority of the work already. Now we're just kind of going back, revising, rethinking, and then adding a little bit to satisfy these requirements. This, in essence, is our research paper, okay? All right, so you want to use the template. I'm always going to say it. Remember the Purdue Online Writing Lab website, there's a link right here, is such a great source for MLA assistance, examples, all of that. But there's also the MLA help module in the content area of D2L. I can't stress that enough. There are links such as this one, examples, all the things you might find useful for MLA, because MLA is annoying. MLA is so specific and so picky, so having those examples and having those resources, I think it's just really important to know that there are all of those materials and resources at your fingertips in our D2L course, okay? All right, so what's the abstract paragraph? So what you're going to do is for each of those revised responses, you're going to include an abstract paragraph, and that will be in italics, so italics is when you go up and you click the little I, slants it, right? I want you to kind of think of this as a letter to me because I want you to provide a little bit of context, right? So what was the process for you in terms of revising? Do you think of your ideas differently? This is going to be different for all of you. We're striving for 4 to 5 sentences of you providing some, background information. I struggled with writing this the first time, but going back with fresh eyes really helped. And this is where I had to spend a majority of my time. This is just adding some, again, context to that writing, okay? And you can consider it something that you're saying directly to me, right? So use that first person and go from there. So what are the criteria? What are the necessities, right? So the collection is going to include 2 of those written responses, and I'm saying written response 1 and written response 2, considering what we've dealt with this semester. Each entry needs to be at least 3 paragraphs, right? Or longer. So this is really determined by the original assignment. Did the original assignment only ask for 2? If the original assignment only asked for 2 paragraphs, you do need to add another paragraph. Additionally, you are also going to want to have a source, right? At least one source from our reading. So each entry needs a source. So if you consider our first written response, that was about our writing history. I want us to go back to that. I want us to think about those things again now that we're more than halfway through a semester in a writing course. So you'll need to make sure it's at least 3 paragraphs and then add some research to it. A lot of you did originally, you referenced Irvin's What is Academic Writing, and that's definitely a source I would recommend you all kind of consider, because that's something that really relates to the writing topic for our writing history. So that can be a source that you can easily integrate into those paragraphs. So each entry is also going to include an abstract paragraph in italics. Now this is separate from these. It appears at the beginning. So there's one abstract paragraph per revised response, and each is going to appear before the revised response. And I'll show you an example. It's okay. I encourage you to add first-person information about the actual content. You know, what did you originally think about this topic? This will be really helpful, especially in the writing history. You know, you felt this way before about writing. Do you feel anything differently now that you're going back and looking at it? That kind of thing. 4 to 5 sentence minimum. Okay, so we need to follow MLA guidelines. So of course we have the typical heading, header, title. There's no title pages in formal research papers in MLA anymore. All of these things will be satisfied if you utilize the template. You also need a works cited page that will be its own single page at the end of your collection, just as any works cited would. So again, here's a link. The collection has to be submitted in the proper format. I don't know how to say it any other way. Make sure you're saving it as the right format. And remember that Dr. K is here. If you want to have some input and some guidance and bounce around ideas, remember that Dr. K is not just there for, you know, going through what you identify as your finished product. Dr. K is happy to sit and help you organize your ideas, think about MLA, whatever level or whatever area of the writing you're struggling with, stumbling with, need some guidance on. That's what Dr. K is there for. Okay, so note that the instructional video contains examples, so you're watching that right now. And then, of course, if you need kind of a more concrete kind of rubric, this is the rubric for you. So take some time to look at that. Don't want to read through it because, you know, we're all aiming for this advanced awesome column, right? All right, so I think the next thing to do that can help is offering you an example, right? Something to look at that gives you an idea of those requirements. So this is a student example from a previous semester. The student allowed me to utilize her work, but I'm, you know, keeping it anonymous. So you'll see, I just want to show you for the way that this is documented. So we have the heading here. Everything is double spaced. If you double click up here, that's how, you know, the student can change. I just put student because it's a student. So we have the revised, we have the abstract paragraph. And this is a paragraph again where the student went back and kind of thought about her writing. You know, it was fairly easy for me to write about originally. Since this assignment was towards the beginning of the semester, I feel like I have grown in my writing abilities. One thing I focused on was making sure I had a good thesis statement, you know, so that's just going back and really reflecting again on the writing. And then it goes into, there's no space, there's no nothing. It goes right into a response that was based on Ron Finley's work from a previous semester. Here's another paragraph, and you'll notice that in the paragraph, there is research that's properly formatted following MLA guidelines. Okay. The student had a lot of paragraphs. I'm not saying you have to do that. Okay, and then there's a space or two, and then the second abstract paragraph talking about the second revised response. So for our purposes this semester is going to be our second written response, right? So going in, you know, there's the abstract paragraph that's looking back over the work, and then getting into, so this was for Sam Cass's TED Talk. So this person again is just revising, showing what they know, utilizing, required research and everything. Scrolling down, okay, they're done. Now we get to the works cited. So this person only referenced Finley and Cass, so they have only included Finley and Cass in a properly formatted works cited page with works cited, centered, Finley. It's alphabetized by last name, so Finley comes first. They've utilized what's called a hanging indent. This is one of those things, the hanging indent can really throw a lot of people, but it also means that using the template can make your life that much easier. Or meeting with Dr. K so that Dr. K can kind of walk through and offer some guidance on that, or just Googling hanging indent, because it's a weird thing that MLA wants us to do, right? We would typically, the first line would be indented using the tab key. But if you do that, it just is not going to do what needs to be done. We want that last name to be sticking out and very visible so that somebody like me who reads in MLA format can easily locate the last name on the works cited. That's the whole purpose, is that if I see a citation in your paragraph and I go, oh, I want to look at what the source is, I don't have to, struggle to find that in your works cited. I have the last name with the quote in your paragraphs, and that matches the last name in the citation, right? So this all goes back to also Choi's work, really. Remember, so Choi had all of these sources. She quotes a lot. She's using a lot of research to support her ideas, but we are always needing to give Choi credit for the article. So even if we're quoting Dan Barber says da-da-da-da-da, we still have to make sure our reader understands that that comes from Choi's article. So Choi would appear in the parentheses so that, again, I read an MLA, I would say, oh, okay, this isn't written by Dan Barber, this is actually written by Choi, and I would see Choi's name sticking out, on the left-hand side of that works cited page. I hope that makes sense. It makes sense in my brain, so this is another thing where it makes sense to me, but I may not be communicating it effectively, but that's why the MLA help module is in D2L, and the MLA video where I go through those specific examples. Okay, so there will also be a template available for this assignment, which I'll cover in the week that it's due, because I'm really working to make some templates available in Google Docs, because I think that's probably going to be more beneficial to some of you. So thus endeth the video instructions for the writing collection. Just think about it for now, and then in the future, let me know if you have any questions or concerns. All right, take care.